Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today I'm going to be answering all of the questions that you guys left me on my video that I did yesterday. And I could not believe it when I started looking at the comments. I mean, I received so many questions. Every once in a while when I do a video, I mean, I always on this channel get, I don't know, like maybe 10 comments or something like that per video, you know? And if I say, like, if you have recovery questions, just leave them in the comment section below. But I never expected to get as many comments as I did. And in fact, that video did better than most of my videos over here. I think it was because I called the video something like, this breakup is hard, or something like that, you know? Because I was, in the video yesterday, I was reading a meditation, and it was talking about, you know, surrendering and acceptance and resistance, and I was talking about going through breakups and how hard that is and whatever. So I'm sure that people, on the heels of me doing a Q&A with my husband in Miami where I had just spent 10 days, I'm sure some people out there were like, is Peter breaking up with Alex? Is Alex breaking up? What's going on over there? But you guys left me some fantastic questions. So I'm going to just go through here, and I'm going to try to do to the best of my ability. I'm going to try to answer these questions to the best of my ability and get to, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, because you guys know when I start talking about recovery, I am so passionate about addiction and recovery that it's going to be really, really hard for me to get to all of these questions. So I might do one video today and another video tomorrow. We'll just see, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go back and start with the very first question that I got. Some of the questions I've read, some of them I haven't. So I'm going to kind of like read the question first and then see if like I think it's an appropriate question or if it even applies to me, because a lot of these things are things that you're going to get. Okay, a lot of people ask me, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about addicts that are in recovery using this drug? What do you think about addicts using that drug? And a lot of what you're going to get from me is that I'm going to say what they do is their business, but for me, it wouldn't work. Like, that's going to be the response that you're going to get, because all I can share is my experience, strength, and hope. That's all I can share, you know? Like, I can only share with you the journey that I've gone through and what's worked for me. I can't share what's going to work for somebody else. I don't know what is going to work for them. I don't know where their journey needs to take them, you know? I'm a believer, and this is something that was taught to me very, very late in my recovery at about 15 or 20 years. Somebody said, it's not our place to stand in front of somebody else's pain. And, you know, and I'm a believer in that today, you know, that I'm a believer that somebody probably has to have enough pain before they're going to make positive changes in their life. It's not my place to stand in somebody else's pain, you know? And to some degree, I'm happy that people didn't stand in the way of my pain, because if I hadn't had enough pain, I don't think that I would be sitting here today, you know? I don't think that I would have stopped, because it was bad at the end, you know? Like, I've shared my drug history on here. I've talked about what it's like, but I don't know that I can ever really truly give you guys a real picture of really how bad and desperate it was. I mean, I've never been somebody that has, you know, fantasized about taking my own life. That's a feeling that I have never connected with, okay? But I did not care if I lived or died. I literally did not care if I never woke up again. Like, I was at the bottom. I did not care. You know, and so anyway, so let's get into these questions. And I'm going to, like I said, do my best to answer them. So, and I'm not gonna call anybody's name out, because I don't know if you want your name associated with these or whatever, so just so you know. Sure, I have a question. What's your take on someone who is in recovery and wants to try out CBD? Do you believe trying out CBD will affect sobriety? This is a tough one. And I agree, it's a tough one. I do know people in recovery that have tried out CBD. Now, for me, and, you know, we'll rationalize it and say, well, it's not really, you know, drugs and blah, 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 whatever. Okay. For me, one of the things I learned early in sobriety is it's really important for me not to romance the drug, you know? And so if I'm doing anything that's kind of close to that, I have to be very, very careful. And so for me, CBD is something that I would not try. But if somebody else wants to do it, and they've discussed that with their sponsor, and the other thing is, I'm going to be taking this from a 12-step approach. I know there are people out there that get sober all different kinds of ways. That's their business. God bless you. I'm just happy that you're still alive today. But I'm taking this from a 12-step point of view. you know, for me, I would not be comfortable with myself using CBD. And that's just how I feel about it. So, but I've known other people that have tried it and used it. Okay. Okay, so somebody said, I'm 70 days sober. Congratulations, that's amazing. I thought getting sober fixed my problems after physical withdrawals were over, but I realized the problems were brought forefront and I had to face them without my addiction, which was a distraction from my problems. I feel better, went from being miserable to sad. However, I struggle every day. I still thinking, why not relapse and go back when I still feel sad despite this powerful step to improve my life overall? How did you overcome the thoughts and moments you wanted to relapse? How do you accept that you will crave it still after 70 days? Thank you. 27 years old from Miami, Florida. Love you, Peter. Been watching since I was 21 or something like that. Been a while. And then she said, don't say her name. Okay, so congratulations on 70 days. First of all, that's a miracle. You're a miracle. You know, I think that the biggest misconception about 12-step programs is that people go to 12-step programs to stop using drugs and alcohol, which, yes, that is true. Like, we go there to stop using, but I've said this in my vlog and I've said this in countless videos. Once you get past the first step of admitting that you're powerless, you know, after that, every other step that you work is really about internal issues that are going on with you and fixing your emotional sobriety, you know, and having some kind of spiritual foundation, whatever that is, okay? That can be the universe, that can be God, that can be whatever you want to believe in, right? Okay, but it's really about fixing the wreckage of your past, cleaning up those things, taking a look at what really makes you miserable, what really makes you sad. What are those things that are making you want to use? Because for me, and I don't know about other people out there, I can only speak to my experience, but like when I wanted to use back in the day, it was because I had such low self-concept. It was because of the stuff that had happened to me in my past. It was because of the stuff that I couldn't get out of my head, right? And so I wanted to mute it. I wanted to mute all of that. And when I was having fun and I was in bars and I was like, hey, what's going on? Or when I was using heavy drugs and I was muting myself, I didn't have to think about all of that. Like she said, it was a distraction, right? Okay. So when you work a 12-step program, you start looking at that stuff. You start looking at what's your part in that, what are character defects related to that, you make amends to people, all of that. And if you have a good sponsor, like I have had in my life, that sponsor will say, when it comes to a point where you're working on certain issues that a 12-step program can't fix, you need to go get some outside help. And an outside help means that you go see a therapist, a counselor, a life coach, whatnot, right? And you go see some, whatever, you know? And you start going to see somebody like that to work on those issues. And that's what I've done. So, you know, I think you don't have to be sad and miserable. I think the other thing is to remember that like 70 days, like you're really early in sobriety. I don't even know that I had made a commitment to sticking around until about 6 months. At 6 months sober, I can remember I got my token, I walked out in the parking lot, and I sat there in the parking lot and I was like, you have never done anything consistently in your life, let alone stay sober for 6 months, and you're 6 months sober. And it was like this eye-opening moment for me. It really was. And that was the first point where I was like, you can really do this, you know? Okay, and somebody asked me, she asked me about the relapsing things in there, or the cravings. And I got a lot of questions about the cravings and the relapse. So in early sobriety, I had to do what I was told. And what I was told was, when I'm craving, pick up the phone and call somebody. And I can remember literally sitting in my apartment, and I had like drug dealers' numbers, and I would like look at the clock and I'd say, okay, at 5 o'clock I can walk down to the liquor store, and I would like call people until I got a hold of somebody, and then they would talk me through it, or they would say, I'm gonna come and pick you up, or they would say, you know, let's talk about this, or they would share with me like they're having gone through that as well, you know? And there's no power greater than one alcoholic or addict talking to another. There's no power greater than that. But other than that, I don't really know what to tell you, because the cravings come along with this, you know? A lot of people ask me, do you still crave at 28 years sober? I really don't, you know? At some point in my sobriety, they tell us that the desire to use will be lifted from us. I don't know that the desire to use has been lifted from me. I mean, every once in a while, a beer on the beach sounds real great, but it doesn't sound great in response to me losing everything that I've got in my life, because this is what I know. that it's not going to end with a beer. It's not going to end with a sip of beer. It's not going to end with a toke on a joint. It's not going to end with one pill. That's going to be the beginning of the end for me. And I know that. And my tape that, used to take me an hour to run through my head. And if you do this and this and this, and then you're going to lose this, and then this person's never going to speak to you. That tape now, for me, runs about that quick, So when I see a beer, somebody drinking a beer on the beach, and I think, well, that looks nice. I might like to have a beer on the beach. Like, for me, it's very quick. Like, that tape is just like 2 seconds. And I think it's just not worth it, right? Like, what are you going to get from a beer that you aren't going to get from a Diet Coke? And in all honesty, if you are going to get something from that beer that you're not going to get from a Diet Coke, then there's something going on with you that you need to take a look at that you're not taking a look at, I keep in very regular contact with my sponsor. I go to a lot of meetings. I'm in very regular contact with my support system, my friends and things like that. And we talk about all of this stuff, And I think that that's really important, is to, revolve yourself around people that get you, and they get where you're coming from, Okay, so good question. Somebody said, hi Peter, my question is, how can you help someone see that they aren't sober if they are using pot? It completely changes their personality, and that's all they think about. They are consumed with it, just like the alcohol. So wouldn't that be an addiction? Maybe I am wrong. I am so confused on this. Thank you for any help and insight on this. Okay. I know people don't like to talk about this. Very touchy subject in 2023, okay? But if you are working a 12-step program, and I can only speak to working a 12-step program, but if you are working a 12-step program, any 12-step program that has to do with drugs and alcohol, and you are drinking, or you are smoking pot, or you are using any other substances, you are not sober, okay? Period, end of story. We preach abstinence, okay? 12-step programs are abstinence-based. I don't know about that person. I can't speak to their journey, okay? I don't know what works for them and doesn't work for them. All I know is when I smoked pot, I smoked it all day, every day, and I loved it. And I never had any consequences from it, except for the money that I was spending on it. But I think I had people tell me, Peter, you are different when you are smoking pot all day, every day. I would be honest with your friend. I would say, or family member, whatever, I would say, you don't realize who you are when you are smoking pot on this level. You need to seriously take a look at that, and if they're not willing to take a look at that, set a boundary, say, I'm not going to be around you when you smoke pot. And if you're smoking pot all day long, then I'm going to have to really reevaluate our relationship. I've had people in my life I've had friends in my life that smoked pot, and I just was like, I can't do this anymore, you're different. And I have said things, and that's been, in sobriety, that I just was like, and they would never do it around me. Like, they were respectful enough to not do it around me, but to show up. Like, it's like, I'm not stupid. Do you think I didn't know that you got high at your house before, we got together? Like, and that's not fun for me. Like, I don't want to be with somebody that's high. Like, why would I want to do that, So I think you got to set that boundary and that limit for somebody. Okay. Okay, so somebody said, I would love to hear about your experience with service work in a 12-step program. Like, what that has looked like through the years of your recovery and your view on it. Been watching you for the last 4 years, stumbled across your Peter Monn channel. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, service work has changed a lot through the years. I mean, when I first got sober, so kind of a funny story, and some people would call this service work, right? The very first meeting that I ever went to regularly was in the basement of a church. A lot of meetings are in basements of churches, right? But I started sitting at this table in the very back, and there was like 3 older women there. They've since all passed on, but they really helped me get sober at first. And, well, 2 of them I kept up with. The other one I didn't really know very well. But anyway, this one woman, she was like, she said something to me about bringing candy to the meeting or something like that. I can't remember. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, it's your job. Like, you need to bring little miniature candies and put them on the table every week. And I said, oh, okay. And so, like, every week, I would buy, like, one of those bags of, like, I've shared this in my vlog a lot, but I would bring, like, a bag of those miniature chocolates, and I would put, like, 5 or 10 down on, like, each table in the middle. So, like, while people were, like, it was, like, a speaker meeting. So that means that people, like, share their story. So we're just sitting there listening to somebody share their story. So while people are sitting there listening, they can, like, eat these little Snicker bars, whatever. So it was, like, I don't know, 2 months later, 3 months later, something like that. one of the women said, I think it was the woman that had told me to bring the candy. She said, have you guys noticed these candies here? Like, this is so nice, whoever's bringing the candies. And I looked at her and I said, well, I've been bringing the candies. And she goes, you have? She goes, well, thank you. That's so nice. I go, you told me that I had to. So, and she thought it was real funny. But, you know, back in the day when I first got sober, yes, Boo Radley, the kind of service work that you do, or I did in early sobriety, because typically you have to have a certain amount of sobriety time to hold service positions. And service positions are like a chairperson or a secretary, or there are other positions that, like, for governed positions that you go to, that, like, inner workings of 12-step programs that you have to have a year or two, and those usually have 2-year commitments to them and things like that, right? Okay, so in early sobriety, my job was, like, we would have actual glass coffee mugs, like, at meetings. So it was clean out the coffee mugs, put up the chairs, you know, it was like clean out the ashtrays, because back in the day, people smoked in meetings. We don't smoke in meetings anymore. There's no smoking meetings. Well, not where I live, but so it would be cleaning out the ashtrays. Those were kind of the service positions that I did. When I had enough sobriety time, which what they recommend is that you have a year or more sobriety time, a working knowledge of the 12 steps, a home group, and a sponsor of your own, and that you're sponsorable, you can sponsor other people. Personally, I think that's great when somebody has all that in a year. I think maybe a little bit more time would be great. I don't know, just experience for me only, I think that would have been better. You know, I started working with other people, other men, and sponsoring other men. That was another way of doing service positions and things like that. There's all kinds of service work that you can do in 12-step programs, and it's changed for me over the years. I mean, it can be like giving people rides to meetings. That's considered service work to some degrees, you know? Or setting up a meeting, putting the chairs in a circle, you know? Or hosting at a meeting. That means, like, when somebody walks in, you greet, being a greeter at the door, you greet every person that comes in the door. There's so many service positions in 12-step programs, and, you know, it just kind of gives people a purpose, a sense of purpose. And at certain points in my life, I have done a lot more than at other points, you know, and it's just, it kind of like ebbs and flows, you know, through time. So, good question. And the whole idea of service work is to give back what you have been so freely given. And so it's just this kind of, you know, idea of, I was given so much, so I'm going to give back so much in return. Okay. I cannot believe I got so many questions. This is unbelievable. Some of these I might skip, you guys, just because I don't really have a whole lot to say about them. And some of them also are not about necessarily recovery. Some of them I might also save for doing specific videos for, because they're that good. Somebody said, how do I support the addict as their spouse? They won't openly admit they have a problem. However, their actions have had serious effects on our lives. Thank you for being a light. Go to find a counselor and go to it. And if they're not willing to go to marriage counseling, start going to that person alone by yourself, and tell your spouse that you're going to marriage counseling without them. Say, if you're not going to go with me, then I'm going to go alone. And then I also would highly, highly, highly recommend a sister 12-step program like AlAnon or AlAnon. AlAnon is a 12-step program for friends and family members of alcoholics and addicts. They don't have to be sober for you to go. It will not tell you how to fix an alcoholic or an addict. It will teach you how to get a sponsor of your own, work a 12-step program, and fix yourself, and how you react to that, and how we look at our codependent behaviors and things like that. And AlAnon has absolutely saved the lives of friends of mine, and I am so thankful for AlAnon to this day. And so yeah, check it out. And you can look up AlAnon, Google AlAnon. Like, you know, I don't know if you live in Topeka, Kansas, look up AlAnon Topeka, Kansas, and it will pull it up for you. And you can call the number and say, I'm looking for a meeting in my area, and they will be very nice, and they will tell you where to go. And it might not be your thing, but they will tell you to try. I think they tell you to try it for 6 weeks until you give it up, and keep on coming back until you give it up. Until you give it up. And that would be what I would recommend, you know, especially if it's affecting your life. Okay. Whew, so many questions. How do we stop enabling the alcoholic behavior? We recently did an intervention after years of alcoholism and countless failed attempts of sobriety. They don't seem to want to get better despite them going to the hospital for their lives because they were so far gone. They continue to say in programs, I'm not like the people here. Well, a lot of people say that. We put in place boundaries, which basically means we can't watch or do this to herself, but my grandmother, her mom, is still enabling. Okay, so this is going to be really hard for you, and this is what I would recommend to any of my friends. So this is not expert advice. This is just based on my own personal experience. You're going to have to set boundaries with your mother. You're going to have to set boundaries and say, if you're going to continue to enable her, then I'm going to have to not be part of this relationship anymore. And I know that that's hard, but you guys already did an intervention. And like, I tell people this all the time, because I have been part of many interventions, and you see them on TV, and at the very end, they're always like, okay, I'll go to treatment. But like, that is not how interventions work. And I want to make this very, very clear. That TV show, which I think brings fantastic awareness to addiction and recovery, and that Candy woman that did the intervention, she is unbelievable. She is such a great interventionist. But there are a lot, I mean, most interventions, I would tell you, like 80% probably, I'm just pulling that number out of my butt, like, they do not go well, you guys, okay? And the person's like, I am not going. And there's always that one family member that continues to enable them, and they know that, and they continue to manipulate that person, so they don't have to do what they're told in the intervention, you know? So, I don't know, it makes me really, really sad, but I would recommend for you to set boundaries with your mother, is what I would recommend, even though I know that that's hard. Okay. Okay, so this is the person that asked about AlAnon. As I was driving, I thought of some more. How do I go about working the 12 steps? Do I need a sponsor for that? Do I just need the basic text? AlAnon. I'm always really nervous to share in meetings. Does that get easier in time? It gets easier in time. You just have to try. And you can even say, hi, my name's Peter, and I get nervous to share in meetings. And I just realized that the video that I filmed before this, I deleted when I sat down here. That's my share. Yes, you need to have, I recommend that you need to have a sponsor to work steps with. There are gonna be other people out there that are gonna tell you differently, but I recommend that you have a sponsor to work steps with. I think it's really important. Okay. Somebody that knows what they're doing, right? Okay, somebody said, hello, Peter, I'm a little over a year sober and was wondering what keeps you going. I've had some pretty testing times, and I was hoping you could share what motivates and keeps you sober. Like, I feel like I'm doing well, but I'll take any advice I can get. Thank you. Okay, so I don't know that this really happened to me for like the first couple years, but what I realized was, you know, you don't get sober and you win the lottery. Like, I think like I had that kind of idea. Like, I was going to get sober and like everything was going to be grand, you know, and everything was going to get better. And it does. You get relationships are repaired in your life, and, you know, you stop having the same money problems that you had, but it doesn't mean that everything in your life is completely 100% better, right? And you still have a lot of things, but what I realized was I was dealing with life drunk and using drugs, or I could deal with life sober. And things seemed to go a lot better when I was dealing with life sober. So, and I also had peace of mind, and people seemed to like me better, and I wasn't living in the chaos all the time, and that's what kept me going. And then, you know, it would be like, maybe at first it was just one thing a year that happened, you know, just one exciting thing that happened that was like really good, that I could directly relate to my sobriety, and I'd be like, if I wasn't sober today, that wouldn't have happened, you know. And then it was like 5 good things would happen in a year, and I'd be like, if I wasn't sober, those things wouldn't happen. And now I'm sitting here at 28 and a half years sober, and I'm telling you, if I wasn't sober today, I wouldn't have the life that I would have. I wouldn't have my marriage. I wouldn't have my friendships, friends. I wouldn't have my YouTube career. I wouldn't have anything that I had, you know? So don't give up. Listen, stay around for the miracle, you know? Like I told somebody at the beginning of this, you're a miracle. We're all miracles. If we have one day sober, you've got a chance, you know? So, but that's a good question. Okay, okay, my battery died because I had filmed this other video, so anyway, and I lost my place in my questions, so I'm going to have to go through them, and I'm going to pick out certain ones, and I'm going to come back and do a part 2 to this, because I think at this point it's like over 20 minutes, I don't even know, I don't know where I was, but it's getting very long, so I'm going to just answer like 1 or 2 more questions, okay? So, somebody said, are you still friends with people that you knew in your addiction? So, okay, interesting question. When I was in treatment, most of my friends that I had used, close to the level that I use. They either, you know, like they smoked pot a lot or they drank a lot. They definitely drank to the level that I drank. And so my counselor, when I was in treatment, she was like, you're going to call these people and tell them that you can't have any interactions with them anymore, right? And I would say out of that friend group of, I don't know, 10 people, something like that, really it was only like 1 or 2 people that I was super, super close with. And so I did. I called them and I said, you know, I can't really have any interactions with you anymore. And so they were like, okay. Well, actually, so I had a friend of mine that I was like a roommate with, and she and I like partied hard together. She had moved out of state to move in with her grandfather. So she had moved far away. So she's one of the friends. And then I had another friend who was probably my best friend at the time, this guy. And, but he was somebody that was able to still go to school and keep his job and whatever. And he and his roommate actually came to visit me in treatment on Christmas Day. And, they were like the only ones that came to visit me. Somebody else came to visit me and I was like, because I smoked a lot of pot with her and I was like looking at you, it was like looking at a joint. But you know, like I called all these people and I said, I can't have any interaction with you when I get out of there. I think the thing that was so funny about it was that I was like afraid that they would be like offended by it. And I think like but really it was like I was going to ruin their good time kind of thing. So with my old roommate, she ended up moving back here after I had been sober for a year, and she and my first boyfriend and myself got an apartment together, and she was incredibly supportive and has been to this day. She lives in Berlin, Germany. She has been incredibly supportive of my sobriety to this day. The other guy that I was really, really good friends with. We stayed friends for 3 or 4 years. I got very involved in going to 12-step meetings. My whole friend group kind of changed. He and I kind of just like over the years kind of went our separate ways, not for any other reason. He kind of stopped partying. He got very serious, got his master's degree, got a really great job, got a house in the suburbs and all that kind of stuff, you know, living the dream. And he and I actually talked after, I don't know, it was like, I'm going to get real emotional talking about this. We actually talked about, because he was one friend that would say to me, like, Peter, I'm afraid you're going to die. Like, things are really bad. And we talked probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We hadn't talked in, like, I don't know, like 15 years. And it was like no time had gone by. And I didn't realize, like, how much I missed him, you know. So, but other than the two of them, no, I don't talk to anybody. One of the hardest things for me was that after I got sober, one of my very dear friends, she got sober in another 12-step program, and she is sober to this day, thank God. And we have some kind of funny stories because we got in fights at parties back in the day and stuff like that. But she is very serious in recovery and works a fantastic program today, and I'm so proud of her. I'm proud of us together, you know, because I didn't think either one of us, I mean, we were the joke, you know, and we're not the joke today. But one of the things that makes me really sad, what made me really sad at the time, still makes me sad, is that when I first got sober, there were several people that I partied with back in the day that died within like the first 2 years of overdoses and things like that. I mean to tell you, like five to 6 people. And I was like, the first thing I thought was like, okay, like, well, how did I survive and they didn't? But the other thing was like, why did they not learn from me? Like, why did they not learn from everything that I went through? And that was really, really difficult for me. You know, my life is different. I think even if I wasn't sober today, it's been 28 years. I mean, it's been almost 30 years. I think about that sometimes and I think, God, it's crazy, you know? Like, if you watch my vlog, you know, I watch a lot of drag pageants on YouTube. I have this channel that I love, Kalani Productions. And I was watching this thing the other day, and it was this drag queen here from Indianapolis, and she was like doing this prelim pageant, and it was like from 1990 something, and I was like, oh my God, like that cracks me up. Like I used to be at those shows, you know? It's been such a long time. I don't even know that I would be friends with those people today, even if I wasn't in recovery. You know what I mean? It's been a really, really long time. Okay. Wow, this person asked a lot of questions. Okay, I'll get to all of those in my next video. Answer the one about cravings. I think I answered, well, I mean, oh my God, there's so many more up here. I didn't see these. Okay. I think I'm actually going to stop there, And then I will come back and do, like, maybe tomorrow I will go through and pick out the questions that I didn't answer, and I will do a second part to this video. So thank you guys so much. If you have more questions, put it in the comment section below, and I will include those in the video tomorrow. I had such a great time doing this. I'm actually going to be doing a Q&A on my main channel too as well about recovery. I fed it out on my Instagram, and I took all the questions. I got like hundreds of questions, and I took them all, and I screenshot the ones that I've never talked about. So I'm going to be doing that video up at some point. Drew Monson, my cold toe, if you don't know him on YouTube, he did a video coming out and talking about his addiction. It's fantastically done. A lot of people are asking me to respond to it. I may do that. I don't really know in how I'm going to do that if I do it. His bravery is intense, being that he's in early sobriety. So I'm very proud of him, and I wish him all the best. People keep on asking me what I think. I mean, I think it's impossibly hard to get in a YouTube video for millions of people and share your truth about your addiction and the fear of being judged. And so I think it's, I'm really proud of him. I think that he's helping so many people out there. I was reading through the comments, and people are like, I'm 10 days sober, I'm 5 days sober, I'm 1 day sober. You never really know when you share your story and you're planting the seed who you're helping out there, you know? So anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.